The Supreme Court says Americans have a right to own guns for self-defense and hunting. This is striking down Washington, D.C.'s 32-year-old ban. It is the High Court's first comprehensive look at the Second Amendment. Let's get right to NBC News Justice correspondent Pete Williams live at the Supreme Court. Pete, we've been waiting a while on this one. I remember hearing you talk about this months ago, it seems, that this would be the first time that we would really hear from the court on the Second Amendment. It's fascinating.
It is seldom that demonstrators succinctly summarize a Supreme Court ruling, but I just heard a distinct summary of this. Gun ban, bye-bye. That's precisely what the Supreme Court said today, ruling for the first time on the meaning of the Second Amendment to the Constitution about the right to keep and bear arms. So that makes this a landmark decision. What the court says is, going back to the history of what the founders had in mind when they wrote the Constitution, they said they intended to enshrine in the Constitution an already existing right for individuals to carry weapons. Now, the court says they're well aware of the problem of gun violence here in the District of Columbia and throughout America, but they say that the need to have a gun, the right to have a gun, is at its most acute in the home for self-defense, and that is why the District of Columbia ban on handguns in the home is struck down by this decision. So two things here in the district will change shortly. They will eliminate the ban on having a gun in the home, and they will eliminate another provision of D.C. law that says if you have another form of gun, like a rifle, it has to be disassembled and locked up, which the Supreme Court said basically makes it pointless and useless for self-defense. But the court said, even though this is a fundamental constitutional right, there are still reasonable restrictions that can be imposed. So presumably the Brady gun check, background checks will survive this ruling. Laws that say you can't have a gun if you have mental problems or if you have a felony conviction. They say that you can still license and register guns here in the District of Columbia. So undoubtedly this decision is going to touch off a wave of litigation around the country as people try to challenge their local restrictions. And it could be that the single law in America now outside of the District of Columbia that's most susceptible to challenge is a very similar gun restriction in Chicago. Perhaps New York's very strict limitations on getting the police to certify you as eligible for a gun license. Those sorts of laws. But the gun restriction groups like the Brady Center are saying that there is some glimmer of light of silver lining here for them, because they think this takes off the table the imaginary scenario that any restriction on guns is going to lead to a total ban. They say that's now off the table.
All right, Pete Williams, thank you so much for the information, for breaking it down for us.
Okay.